Five Nights at Freddy's is often dismissed as a collection of internet myths and jump scares, but if you strip away the static, the entire timeline is built on a quiet family tragedy that spiraled out of control. In the 1970s, Fazbear Entertainment was defined by two partners. Henry Emily was the creative engine, a man with a talent for robotics and a happy home life. William Afton was the businessman. He handled the money, but he spent his time obsessively comparing his own family to Henry's, fueled by a growing jealousy of his partner's reputation and skill. Afton's neglect eventually led to disaster. While he was preoccupied with the business, his eldest son Michael bullied his younger brother to the point of a fatal accident. During a birthday party at the diner, Michael shoved the boy into the jaws of a mechanical Fredbear, which bit down and left the child in a terminal coma. This loss didn't result in a father's grief. Instead, Afton viewed his son's death as a public humiliation. In his mind, while Henry's family remained perfect, his own was now broken. This narcissistic blow pushed Afton past the point of no return. One night, after being kicked out of a local bar, Afton drove to the pizzeria and saw Henry's daughter, Charlie, locked outside the building. He saw an opportunity to settle the score with his partner. He murdered her in the alley and drove away, leaving her body in the mud. The restaurant's security puppet, designed by Henry to protect Charlie, crawled out into the pouring rain to find her. It collapsed on top of her body, its circuits shorting out. But when the puppet was recovered, it looked different. It possessed a level of awareness and a set of tears on its mask that hadn't been there before. This was Afton's first look at a new physical law. In this universe, intense human emotion, specifically pure agony and fear, can act as a binding agent, tethering a human consciousness to a mechanical object. Afton realized that Charlie hadn't simply died, she had transferred. This discovery shifted his focus from petty revenge to an obsession with the mechanics of the soul. He wasn't interested in being a businessman anymore. He wanted to control life and death. Afton moved his operations into a massive underground bunker beneath his home. He built specialized observation rooms and a private office where he could monitor fear experiments, attempting to recreate the exact trauma his youngest son suffered to see if he could trigger more possessions. He needed subjects, so he designed the Funtime animatronics, equipped with proximity sensors, voice lures, and internal storage tanks to grab children. The tragedy repeated with his daughter, Elizabeth. She approached Circus Baby alone. The system triggered, the tank snapped shut, killing her instantly. Afton soon noticed that the robot's blue eyes had turned green, matching Elizabeth's. His daughter was now looking back at him through the machine's sensors. Afton didn't shut down the facility. He viewed his daughter's death as his most successful experiment to date. He now had a permanent, sentient subject to study, and he used that momentum to expand his methods even further. In 1985, Afton donned the Spring Bonnie mascot suit at the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. He used the disguise to lure 5 children into a back room, where he murdered them and hid their bodies. He didn't just hide the evidence, he integrated it. By stuffing the bodies into the internal structures of the animatronics, first into Freddy, then into Bonnie, next into Chica, then into Foxy, and Golden Freddy. He forced their spirits to bind with the metal skeletons. Years later, Afton dismantled the robots and melted their haunted endoskeletons down into a glowing, malleable silver liquid called Remnant. This allowed him to treat the soul like a chemical compound. By injecting this into new machines, he granted them a mortal artificial life. Afton had finally achieved his goal of overcoming death. He had built a sustainable system for immortality, but it was a system that required a constant supply of human tragedy to function. The resolution to Afton's crimes came from the two people most affected by them. Michael, seeking to undo his father's work, joined forces with Henry, who had spent decades mourning Charlie and watching his partner's descent. Together, they designed a final location, a fake pizzeria that was actually a massive windowless kiln. They used audio lures to draw Afton, now trapped inside his own decaying mascot suit, and the remaining haunted robots into a central labyrinth. Once the targets were inside, Henry sealed the exits and superheated the building. He watched on the monitors as the structures he and Afton had built decades ago began to melt. The fire served a specific purpose. Intense heat neutralizes Remnant. By melting the metal beyond a certain point, the bond between the spirit and the machine is broken, finally allowing the trapped souls to separate from their robotic shells. The destruction of Afton's empire was a systematic reclamation of the children he had stolen. Henry and Michael used Afton's own scientific principles to ensure that this time there would be no mechanical way for him to return. After the fire, Charlie helped the other spirits find peace. She used her influence to spiritually replace their memories of the murders with a happy birthday celebration, helping them finally move into the afterlife. But there was one spirit who refused to let go. Cassidy, the child killed inside the Golden Freddy suit, was too filled with rage to accept the happy memory Charlie was offering. Cassidy latched onto Afton's soul as it tried to leave the burning building. Instead of allowing him to die, Cassidy used their own agony to anchor Afton, locking him into an infinite loop where he could never truly disappear. Cassidy created a mental purgatory for Afton. In this state, he is endlessly hunted and killed by the same animatronics he designed to capture others, suffering the exact trauma he spent his life inflicting on children. William Afton destroyed everything he touched to ensure he would live forever. He got his wish. He is now an immortal prisoner, trapped in a cycle of his own creation, with no way to ever reach the end.